The film starts by introducing Bart, a ruthless loan shark. His method of extracting money from debtors is both unique and harsh. Bart has raised a man named Danny, treating him like a dog throughout his life. From a young age, Danny has been confined in a cage, fed dog food, and trained to follow orders, lacking the ability to speak or act independently. Danny wears a special dog collar, rendering him harmless while it's on. However, once the collar is removed, he transforms into an aggressive force, attacking anyone who threatens his master. Despite Bart's brutal treatment, Danny, unaware of better circumstances, perceives it as a twisted form of affection. One day, after a brutal day of collecting money through violence, Bart brings Danny home. A guy notices his bleeding forehead and gives him a bandage. But Danny is so innocent that he doesn't grasp its purpose. He returns to his cage, starts punching a bag, and entertains himself with a first-grade book. Learning new words, he displays keen interest in education. The next day, they resume intimidating debtors, targeting a wealthy businessman familiar with the collar trick. To prevent Danny from reacting, they pull Bart away before removing the collar. They beat Bart while Danny watches in confusion, uncertain of what to do. Eventually, Bart manages to take off the collar, unleashing Danny's formidable fighting skills. Wyeth, an organizer of an underground fight match, notices Danny's unique abilities and sees a lucrative opportunity. After beating the debtor severely, Bart collects his money and steps outside. Despite Danny saving the man's life, he's angered that Danny didn't intervene earlier during the beating. Disregarding his role in Danny's behavior, he labels Danny as an unworthy animal. Their final stop of the day is at an antique warehouse. To prevent a repetition of past incidents, Bart instructs Danny to stay inside and keep an eye on an alarm. When the alarm turns red, Danny is to call Bart and his henchmen for assistance. In the warehouse, Danny spots a piano and, recalling it from a book, becomes fascinated. He experiments with the keys when Sam, a blind pianist there to tune the piano, enters. Seeing Danny's interest, Sam assists him, a novel experience for Danny, unfamiliar with kindness. Throughout their interaction, Danny remains silent, but Sam doesn't seem to mind. To help Danny concentrate, Sam asks him to focus on the ticking sound of a clock, reminiscent of the alarm his master told him to watch. Danny notices the lit alarm and quickly enters to find Brat lying beaten on the floor. Despite their victory over the enemies, Brat and his henchmen are seriously injured. Back at their base, they berate and insult Danny, kicking him into his cage. Wyeth then approaches Bart with a business proposition. He suggests having Danny participate in the next underground battle against the reigning champion, a deadly competition where only death concludes the match. The potential earnings are substantial, and Bart swiftly agrees to the proposal. The next day, Danny enters the ring against an undefeated opponent with 3 years of experience. Despite everyone betting on the opponent, Danny lands 3 powerful punches to the neck, securing a quick victory. Wyeth is ecstatic about Danny's performance, handing Bart his share of the money and promising more. On their way back to the hideout, Bart is in high spirits. Encouraging Danny to express his desires, Bart receives a vague request for a piano. However, Bart dismisses the idea, considering a musical instrument irrelevant for a dog. Suddenly, their car collides with a truck. The wealthy businessman, seeking revenge for the beating, and his associates arrive to kill Bart. They repeatedly shoot at the vehicle, ultimately succeeding in taking down the gangster. Danny, left alive, sustains only a single bullet wound. With his master gone, he has only one destination in mind, the antique warehouse. Inside, he encounters Sam, who recognizes him by his footsteps. Before he can seek help, Danny falls unconscious. Upon waking up, he finds himself on the softest surface he's ever experienced, realizing he's in an unfamiliar room. Sam brought him to his house and has been caring for him during Danny's 2-day unconscious period. Unaccustomed to kindness, Danny feels nervous in this new environment. At Sam's house, Victoria, Sam's stepdaughter, arrives, and a frightened Danny hides under the bed. Recognizing his uniqueness, she brings a keyboard under the bed, encouraging him to use it since he has an interest in the piano. During dinner, the family eagerly awaits Danny's presence. When he emerges, holding the keyboard tightly, he devours his food as he usually does, having never eaten in front of people before. Victoria intervenes, teaching him proper table manners to prevent a mess. Danny's peculiar behavior amuses the family, evoking an unfamiliar sense of joy in him. Later, Sam attempts to remove Danny's collar, startling him. Danny adamantly refuses, and Sam respects his decision. The next morning, Sam and Danny accompany Victoria to her college. Before parting ways, she kisses Danny on the cheek, leaving him flustered. Having only read about kisses in his first-grade book, he's delighted to experience it in reality. Sam notices this and smiles to himself, realizing that Danny has faced adversity in life, impacting his mental capacity. To help Danny socialize, Sam takes him to a grocery store and encourages him to interact with the cashier. Despite feeling nervous, Danny observes Sam conversing with people, marveling at his social skills. Later that day, he's tasked with picking up Victoria from college. Anxious, he meets her, and they go out for ice cream. At night, when Victoria struggles to sleep, she wakes Danny and teaches him to play basic piano keys. Sam, hearing them from his bedroom, smiles at the realization that Danny is gradually opening up to them. In a short span, Danny becomes an integral part of their lives. On another day at the grocery store, Danny and Sam witness a brawl between some thugs. While the audience panics, Danny calmly continues examining vegetables as if nothing is amiss. Later, Sam approaches him, curious about how he remained composed in such a situation. Danny simply responds that the thugs weren't fighting him, so he saw no need to interfere. Intrigued by this answer, Sam begins to inquire about Danny's past. Discovering that Danny's innocence was manipulated to foster violence, Sam sympathizes with him. Over the next few weeks, they live as a joyful family. Danny finally allows Victoria to remove his collar and remains calm without it. Then, during work, Sam informs Danny that he and Victoria are moving back to New York after her graduation. Heartbroken at the thought of losing his newfound family, Danny is reassured by Sam that they consider him a part of their family and will take him with them. After finishing work, Danny receives half of the money as a gesture of appreciation. Excited, he heads to the store to buy gifts for everyone. However, on his way out, he encounters a former associate of Bart who reveals that Bart is still alive and searching for Danny, as he is a significant source of income. Intrigued to uncover details about his parents, Danny agrees to meet Bart. In the ensuing encounter, Danny questions Bart about his mother, and Bart casually admits to finding Danny on the side of the road, showing no interest in seeking out his biological parents. Following that, Danny is brought into another lethal confrontation. His employer instructs him to wear the collar, only to discover that the usual manipulation no longer works. When Danny refuses to take a life, he is thrust into the battle ring against a formidable adversary. Despite being struck, Danny refrains from retaliating. To heighten the stakes, additional fighters join the ring, but even amid severe abuse, Danny refrains from fighting back. Unexpectedly, after a man steps on his hand, something clicks in Danny's mind. He reverts to his former self and swiftly defeats his opponents. By the end of the day, Danny is beaten and thrown back into his cage. Elsewhere, Victoria and Sam are anxious about his well-being but have no idea where to find him. In a moment of solitude, Danny escapes from the cage and stumbles upon a collection of pictures on Bart's workstation. Recognizing himself in a photo with his mother at the piano, he confronts Bart, demanding answers about his mother for the last time. The man discloses that she worked as an adult entertainer and was his companion for numerous nights. She even brought young Danny along without any regard for boundaries. However, Bart developed feelings for her. When she succumbed to an illness, Bart took Danny in and considered him family. The next day, while driving to work, Danny overhears the word family, triggering thoughts of Sam and Victoria. In response, he swerves the car, causing a crash and seizing the opportunity to escape. Subsequently, he reunites with his biological family, who are ecstatic to see him at last. Learning about his mother's story, they empathize with him. Victoria provides background on the photo, and Sam recognizes it as an auditorium he visited. To uncover more about Danny's mother, they visit the auditorium. The staff recognizes her but claims she vanished with her son one day and never returned. Victoria discovers a music note in the picture's background and uses it to play the piano. The melody is the one Danny's mother used to play, triggering suppressed memories from his childhood. In a flashback, we learn that Danny's mother, a struggling musician, had financial difficulties. Consequently, she borrowed money from Bart in exchange for her services. She kept Danny away from this arrangement until Bart discovered his existence. When she refused to allow Bart to see Danny, she was killed, and Danny was abducted. Upon recovering these memories, Danny realizes the danger posed by Bart. He urges Sam and Victoria to quickly pack their bags and leave the city. However, before they can depart, Bart and a sizable group of his associates arrive at Sam's apartment building. To ensure Sam and Victoria's safety, Danny hides them in a closet and confronts the thugs to divert their attention. In a face-off against a formidable opponent named the Stranger, hired by Bart for his comparable skill level, Danny engages in a fierce battle. The confrontation concludes with the stranger falling from a window, and Danny attempts to save him. Despite his efforts, Bart continues to pursue Danny, discovering the apartment where he used to live. Threatening Sam and Veronica's lives, Danny reluctantly surrenders to protect his loved ones. Upon nearing Bart, he launches into an aggressive attack, fiercely assaulting him. Sam and Victoria rush out of the closet to intervene, aware that Danny is not a killer. As the situation settles, the three share an embrace. Simultaneously, the police arrive and apprehend Bart for the numerous crimes he committed. In the final scene, Danny and Sam attend a piano recital featuring Victoria. She dedicates the piece to a special person and plays the same song Danny's mother performed years ago. Danny watches her with admiration, shedding tears of joy. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell if you want to watch more videos like this. Thank you for watching and see you again soon. Take care.